Okay.
I have 20 seconds on my nuclear clock. What's that?
Yep. 15 seconds. Hey, there's Steve Lacey.
Steve Lacey's on. Now we can start.
Yeah.
Well, welcome, folks. This is StreamingChurch TV, and I'm Phil Thompson. This is actually our live video blog. We do this every Thursday evening at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 6 o'clock here in the Old Pueblo, Tucson, Arizona. And as always, we're over here at Rockin' Java Coffee Shop, which is on the northwest side of Tucson, Arizona, about a half a mile or so west of I-10 off of Twin Peaks. It's a great coffee shop. Come on over and check it out anytime, Rockin' Java. But also, this facility is a Alive Church campus. Is it an Alive or a Alive Church campus? What's the proper English on that?
I think it's an Alive
okay, all right.
Church
Well,
campus.
we'll just edit that out later. But it is an Alive Church campus here, which we'll talk about in a moment or so. StreamingChurch.tv is a company that helps churches broadcast online. And so we do this every Thursday to talk about streaming, video, innovation, technology, and even some other subjects that may not always be related just because we like to change things up a little bit. Well, my guest today is Michael Gray. Michael is with AliveChurch.com, and he is, I'm just going to make up a title for you.
Okay.
How about Pastor of Operations? How's that sound? Does that work?
Sure.
Because you guys, you change your titles all the time.
Constantly.
All the time. So, but actually, we are glad to have Michael, and I'm teasing Michael, but he actually does oversee a large part of the operations of AliveChurch.com, which includes online broadcasting, the church campus. And in interest of full disclosure here, I'm actually one of the web pastors at Alive Church. I volunteer on the weekends, so that's just full disclosure there. So,
okay.
But what we want to talk about today, tonight, is multi-site campuses. And if you're obviously watching this live, you are more than welcome to type in any questions you might have for us in the chat right over here to the other side of us. Feel free to ask us questions about multi-site campuses, or really, we're not picky. We'll probably take any question, and even if you have an issue with your marriage, we'll try to help you on that. Probably not. But so anyhow, again, Michael, thank you so much for coming and being a part of us today.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. I love being here, and always enjoy interacting with the tech side of things.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. And so let's talk about multi-site campuses. Over here at Continental Ranch is Alive Church, which also has a coffee shop, Rockin' Java. And by the way, we do this raw every Thursday evening, so if you hear babies crying, people talking, fistfights going on, coffee grinding, that kind of stuff. It's just all par for the course here. People are having fun. And so you might hear that because we just set things up and do it here. We just stream it live here, and that's what's happening. And so this also doubles, really it's the full thing here, as an Alive Church campus. We're actually in the auditorium here, which is connected to the coffee shop. And maybe Steve can kind of pan around here in a little bit. None of the chairs are set up. We've got a few tables set up here. Behind us, if you can see that, are drums. There's a stage back here. There's some lighting. We haven't turned all the lighting on, obviously, so you might not be able to see it real well. But this doubles as a campus for Alive Church, and then the coffee shop's over. So Michael, tell me, multi-site campus, how long has that been a vision of Alive Churches?
We have been very serious about it for about 5 years.
Okay.
The long-term history of it was that even before I arrived, a long time ago, over 8 years ago, in the 10 years ago range, Jeff, our teaching pastor, Jeff Love, was doing multi-site by driving from site to site.
And I was a part of that.
And you were a part of that. So we were doing multi-site a little bit before technology allowed us to do it like we do it today.
Yeah, we were over on Prince Road, by I-10 and Prince Road, and then we actually were renting a school up on the northwest side, Ironwood Hills, I believe, and we were literally going back and forth, and we had two bands, and it was just organized chaos, kind of like it is now at a live church, but it was just kind of a fun thing. But we actually learned a lot from that experience. And then as time went on here, I ran away and went to Kansas, and of course you came on the scene. There's different ways to do multi-campuses, multi-site campuses.
Yeah.
The way we do it here at Alive is how?
We actually do it live. And
so no recorded stuff?
Not unless we
live.
lose power at one of the facilities. They always have a backup DVD, but everything is broadcast live via T1 and received via T1.
Okay. And a T1 is what?
It is a large internet. It's not large, it's guaranteed bandwidth. So you don't ever buffer. You're always going to have a consistent signal up and down as long as you have power.
Okay, so you're streaming that live from another site, and the site that you're streaming it from is not here. This is where it's coming to this site here, but you're streaming it from where? Where does it originate from?
In Oro Valley. Suburb of Tucson is another campus, and we broadcast live from there.
Okay.
And it is about 12 miles from this campus.
Okay.
And of course, that's our site, and we send to the web as well as to campuses there.
Right. So we're online, the World Wide Web, as well as this specific campus here. So they have a band kicking here, and a very good band, by the way, on Saturday nights at 5 o'clock, and then Sunday mornings 9:30 and 11.
Yeah.
A band is playing here, and then when the band breaks up, the big screen has Senior Pastor Jeff Love teaching.
That's correct.
And that's how they observe that and see that. Now, why do you do it live? Because there are churches doing this all over the country, but why has Alive chosen to do it live instead of something that's pre-recorded?
As the operations guy, I would much prefer to do it recorded. Recorded is definitely easier, and there's a lot more control.
And you can edit
that
it
you
too.
have, and
you
it
could
can be
edit.
edited and adjusted. However, our teaching pastor, Jeff Love, has a pretty natural ability to interact with all of the campuses live. So at the beginning of each teaching, he asks a virtual pastor question that goes out via Twitter, Facebook, and text, and people can respond live during the experience, and then Jeff interacts with the responses from the web campus as well as from the remote live campuses. And so that live interactive two-way conversation gives us enough of a positive dynamic that it's worth doing the live.
Okay. And by virtual pastor question, you mean something like, if he's teaching on relationships, he may ask at the beginning of the message, have you ever been in a bad relationship? If so, tell us about it, or something.
Yeah.
And so people can either text or type in the chat.
Yep.
If they're watching online, or even if they're in the congregation, even if they're there at the site, they can actually whip out their phone.
Yes.
And type in text.
The encouragement is to pull out your phone and turn it on, silence it, and interact live in the experience.
Okay. So that's one of the main things, then, is doing it live as opposed to having it, recorded earlier. Although there's plenty of value in that.
There is safety and security and more consistency if you do it recorded. If I could capture the interactivity with a recording, we would definitely do it that way.
Yeah, that would certainly be the way to go. Okay, so all right, so multi-site campuses. That's what we're talking about today on Streaming Church TV. This is the live video blog. I'm Phil Thompson, talking with Mike Gray. And if you have a question for Mike, just type it right in here. Obviously, if you're watching live, if you're watching this later on archived, you can still ask us questions, even if you're watching something that was done a few months ago. Just send us an email. You can send an email to Mike if you have questions with his email address is just mike@alivechurch.com. Or you can send it to me at phil@streamingchurch.tv. So either way, we'd be glad to help you no matter what time you're watching this. But if you're watching it live, feel free to jump in here, and you can even ask him something really strange. Okay. So, all right, Mike, Tell us a little bit about the pros and cons, or well, let me back up. Tell us a little bit about the boo-boos, because people watching this, they want to know, okay, obviously it's a lot of effort and a lot of work, and Alive Church has had some real success, but there was a few bumps in the road, too.
Yeah, our current campuses were not our first try. We had some swing and a miss campuses, and we learned, although we did spend some time learning from churches like lifechurch.tv, as well as North Coast and Seacoast, who have been doing multi-site for many years.
Right.
And we learned as much as we could, but sometimes for one reason or another, campuses don't work out. And we have learned a lot. One being, you have got to provide a quality experience, and you can't allow technology to have that experience be negative or fail. Okay. So you have to be consistent, not spectacular, but consistent in providing an experience for a campus to be successful. That's one of the things. There's many others.
Sure. So, and I remember this. We actually had something going on another part of town, and the internet connection was the big issue at that point.
It was.
There was other issues too, but and you were actually at one point using like a, what do they call it, an air card on a, and that worked well for a little while, but then more and more people got on it in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, the service was new. It was a new air card product. Very few people had it, so the bandwidth was very wide and very greatly usable. Okay. Within a year to year and a half, that deteriorated to where we couldn't get a quality signal.
Because other people were jumping on it in the neighborhood or whatever, and so the internet connection started to shrink down.
Yeah, it eroded over time.
And so the people watching at the other location, at the other campus, watching the screen, they would get things like buffering or people freezing up or
a frozen screen, or something to that extent. So again,
and that was a negative experience.
That was, and even in moving to a recorded service, then you were fine. But I think we had done enough damage in that location that we had to cut our losses, and we fail a lot. We try a lot of things. We put our best effort into it, and we don't celebrate the failure, but we celebrate the try.
Well, and the experience you gain from it. I mean, you can fall. I think it's John Maxwell that talks about falling forward, and I think sometimes you can make mistakes, and that's going to happen in anything you do. So, all right, so you did that for a while, learned a lot, then decided to do something over on this side of town, Continental Ranch area here in Tucson, which, again, we're at Rock and Java Coffee Shop. So we have a coffee shop here, but we also have a church campus here that meets on the weekends, and stuff happens during the evenings, during the weekdays here.
That's right.
Well, let me ask you this. Why a coffee shop here? I mean, this is supposed to be a church.
One of our brands is the Coffee Church. I mean, we love our coffee and celebrate it, and it is at this point something that is very relevant to a large portion of society. So a full line coffee house that's open 7 days a week is kind of our entry point for the community.
Okay.
The community can come in, they can try it out. Hey, by the way, what's that you got in the back? We do church services on the weekend, so we have a lot of transition from the coffee house to church.
Okay, cool. So that gets people in the door. Plus, it's people. Big sign out here. Twin Peaks is open now off the interstate, off of I-10, getting some traffic. So that's a good thing. All right, so you got people coming in, stuff happening here during the week as well as the weekends. And that's pretty cool. And by the way, you also, one of the things you talk about, Mike, and by the way, if you've just joined us, Mike Gray from AliveChurch.com. I'm Phil Thompson with StreamingChurch.tv, and we're talking about multi-site campuses. So thanks for joining us. You have a question for Mike, just type it right in here, okay? Mike, one of the things that we talk about at Alive Church is being able to kind of duplicate what we're doing in other areas and at other campuses. And so you have a coffee shop here, but you do have coffee available at a live church over in Oro Valley too, don't you?
Yeah, we have a mobile coffee shop there that's out front. It's not open 7 days a week. It's a smaller coffee house that's out front that we more are providing the coffee experience for the attenders at that campus. This one is specific in that it was our first time in building out a full-line coffee house that is has the visual and environment quality as good as or better than a Starbucks.
Right.
So it's got great coffee, great experience. The service is exceptional, and so it's a great gathering place for the community. If you come in here early in the morning, yesterday morning, there was nearly 35 people gathering, some in here, some out there. They do a Tai Chi class in here early in the morning.
Cool.
They gather, they drink their coffee afterwards and have a great time together. So the space is used by the community during the week for a variety of different events. And then on the weekend, it's a Saturday and Sunday full services for adults and kids.
Right. Awesome. Okay. If you have questions for Mike, feel free to type them in. Crystal's got a question for you. Are you guys going to launch another campus?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We do have actually a little bit, I won't say, let me think about how to say that.
Yeah,
We're
make sure you're
actually
careful.
going to do a venue next that will be at one of the existing campuses, but at a different time. We have a couple of different concepts that we're working with there, and one of those will be partnering with lifechurch.tv, where we will be broadcasting Craig Rochelle's teaching on a night of the week. Again, a full-line band playing before that teaching, and that will be the experience for that venue. We have another venue that we're targeting within this year that will be a little bit more scaled back experience from the weekend, a little simpler and a little faster for people to get in, have the experience during the week, and that's more specifically for people who can't make it in on the weekend.
Now you also have another campus for people that may not be able to actually make it to the Tucson physical locations, or they may be watching around the world. Tell us about that campus.
That would be our web campus. I feel very close to that because that's kind of my baby. That was kind of mine to get launched a few years ago.
You're starting to fade away from it, I noticed.
I am stepping back, and Phil is filling the role, no pun intended, as our campus pastor online, and he is helping take that to a new level, a new place. We're doing live cutaways and live interaction, and more people with their hands-on available to do prayer online and online life group you're doing as well.
Yeah.
So that's a great experience.
Take a moment to tell us a little bit about, you mentioned we're doing kind of a remote cutaway to the actual web pastors. Tell us a little bit about how that's working. We just started that last weekend officially.
Yeah, last weekend was our first, I won't say it's our first because we actually did it about a year and a half ago. We allowed for some technology to kind of come our way and some new improvements in technology so that we could do our live breaks for the web campus and the web experience that is more exclusive to what's going on online on the campus versus announcements and videos that are more so local based versus international and web based.
So when at the physical location, if one of the pastors, campus pastors, getting up to talk, maybe like right after the band, right before the senior pastor comes to teach, he gets up to talk, then we break away to the web pastor, and those who are viewing online, anywhere in the world, have the web pastor actually addressing them specifically on video, live video, and talking to them specifically, helping people to connect and do that. So,
and we do that live, so the ability is still built in for live interaction. If there's conversation that's already started online, that can continue, and
Right.
the web pastor can interact with people as they're in the experience in a live way.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so all right, so we're talking about multi-campus stuff here, specifically about doing doing multi-site locations. I just met with a pastor today who's interested in StreamingChurch TV, and he's up in a town north of Tucson, actually a very small town. It's Oracle, Arizona. And there's a lot of little towns around Oracle as well.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to they run over 400 people a weekend there. And that's pretty
That's
good for a small little town like Oracle, Arizona. And they're really thinking about doing multi-campuses as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different ways to do that, as we just talked about here. So tell me, if you can here, Mike, lay down some basic things that if somebody's viewing this right now, and maybe it's a pastor or an executive pastor, and they're saying, yeah, our church really does want to do multi-campus sites. What are some basic beginning things that they should be looking into doing? And I'm not just talking about the technical stuff, but although the technical is obviously a big part of it. What are some basic first steps if you're thinking about doing multi-campus sites?
Make sure that you're going to guarantee or you know what the basic requirements or the basic quality level that you won't go below.
Okay,
and if you cannot reproduce that, then you need to get to a place where you can reproduce that to where the quality is, again, and I'm not saying excellence, I'm saying good enough. What's the line that you're providing a good experience for a remote campus? And then the other piece that I would say is absolutely most critical, and in most cases have been the failures of our other campuses, is campus pastors. Campus pastors are make and break when it comes to doing multi-site. Leadership and somebody who really is providing a great shepherd experience for that campus.
Yeah. Let's see here. Let me read some questions here you might be having here, and I want to get back to what you just said in a moment, Mike. So we can do a joint service with another congregation. Absolutely. You could certainly do that.
Sure.
And I was pastoring in a small town years ago where we were a very small town, but we were able to meet in one location. But you could actually do this. You could broadcast stream to different campuses with different congregations too that bring people in.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Something you just said, Mike, here. You said make sure that you can reproduce something at high quality. So let me try to back up here. So you've got a church, you're doing really well, you've got a good kids ministry. You know, you're doing really well with a simulation in your particular building. And now you want to start you want to start another campus. So what you're saying, Mike, is before you just run off and do it, make sure that you can duplicate a good quality kids ministry. That's just one example.
Absolutely. Kids ministry, your other ministries that you're offering at your existing campus. You don't have to offer everything, but if you're in a young couple community with a remote campus, then you have got to have as good as children's program as you have at your live experience.
Right. And so you've got to be able to do that. So, and that's going to take a little effort. I mean, that's comes right down to, okay, if we're going to really make this work, we've got to have something that's as good as what we're doing at the other place.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And because of that, we recently have become a network member with lifechurch.tv, and we're using their children's model and rolling that out now at all of our campuses, so that in the future, when we go to do another campus, it's very reproducible and it's very consistent with what we're doing on all of our other campuses.
Okay. All right. Question here, how do we do the worship? How do we do the announcements? How do we do the message? So you're talking about at a different campus. How do you do the worship? Well, what Alive's doing is we have other bands doing it live.
Live, yes.
And again, you want to make sure that what you've got, if you've got, a decent music, decent worship at your one campus, you want to make sure you have decent. In other words, you don't want to have one really, really good up here and one really bad down here. You want to have quality or a good level.
Yes.
And you do it live, and then the announcements are handled primarily by the campus pastor.
That's
mostly, right?
Yeah.
So, like for instance, let's just use Rock and Java here. Rock and Java, Continental Ranch here. Again, if you just joined us, this is a place that a live church has a campus. They also have a campus at Oro Valley. And so what happens here is you have a band that's going live here, Saturday nights, Sunday mornings, that's what the stage is. The band finishes up their worship set. The campus pastor, or at least one of the leaders, gets up of this campus, gets up and addresses the people here. And then the timing is such where they hit it exactly right.
Most of the time.
and they go to Jeff Love, who happens to be the senior pastor at a live church. He's put on the big screen, and the live stream is happening where everybody sees it there. Okay, is that a good explanation, I think, of what we're looking for there? So that's what happens here. Now, not every church does it that way, though. There are churches that the announcements come on the video, the screen, and even some churches are actually streaming their music, which, would you advise that, to stream their music, their band?
We stream it to the web,
right,
but there is substantial licensing that you have to purchase in order to stream live performed music.
Right.
And you also have licensing involved if you're streaming it from point to point. I would not advise it because in reality, once you capture that sound, it has to be remixed before you can send it out and get what you would consider a good quality worship experience. I would say in every case you're going to be better with a local live band.
Right, yeah. And as we're getting some comments on the chat here, the timing is obviously, if you're doing all this stuff live with live bands and live announcements at one place and then streaming the actual message in, the timing is very important.
It is.
You got to stay on the clock.
It is, but we build into that. I just put into the chat. We build into that a minute to a minute and a half of buffer video.
Right.
Sometimes announcement video, but almost always a series or teaching intro that is long enough that it allows the campuses to join us without it being too clunky or uncomfortable.
Right, okay. Dan saying, why don't we see the congregation? So I'm assuming, Dan, what you're asking here is when we're streaming to a campus, you're only seeing the senior pastor, Jeff Love. But there's times we do pan to the congregation, don't we?
It is. Once the teaching begins, we don't use a lot of camera switching. We're typically one camera and try to keep it on Jeff. We don't want it to look too slick or too
overproduced, maybe?
Overproduced. But you do hear the crowd. The crowd is mic'd. The crowd is very interactive, sometimes too interactive. But that's fun for us on live because it makes us feel like we're part of a larger community when it's all happening.
Right. Yeah. Okay, we've only got a couple minutes left, but I also want to touch on something you just said again about, some main things that you have to think about if you're going to go multi-campus. You talked about reproducing a good experience at every location you have, but you also mentioned leadership, a good campus pastor. We got about a minute or so left. Why is having a good campus pastor so important to these multi-sites?
There are a lot of factors. If the campus pastor is not fully invested in the DNA of where you're going as an organization, then at some point that's going to begin to present itself, and it's going to begin to be a distraction, and they're going to want to do something else. The other thing is sometimes guys have come in and they've thought they could go without teaching on weekends. And after doing it for 9 months, they realized, man, the teaching part of it, I enjoy too much to be a campus pastor.
Because most of the time, campus pastors aren't going to be the teacher. I mean, occasionally they might be.
They may fill in.
Yeah.
Almost all of them do fill in, but they are there as a shepherd to that campus. Now, the big plus side is, if a guy is a fantastic shepherd, he's a perfect campus pastor.
Right.
Because he's going to pour his heart and soul into the people and investing in relationships. And in long term, that is a great campus pastor.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And when you say DNA, that really comes down to the vision of the church, the vision of the senior pastor. They've got to be able to buy into that vision, own it, embrace it, make it their own. Yeah. And if they don't, then you're asking for possible problems down the road a ways. Yeah,
eventually it becomes a distraction, or you begin to veer off of what you're trying to accomplish and reaching community.
Sure. You know what? We're out of time, Mike. Sure appreciate you spending some time with us here as we talk about multi-site. If you have questions for Mike or myself for that matter, we're going to stop our stream here, but we're going to be lingering on the chat here for a while. But by all means, feel free to ask us some questions, even though we're going to discontinue the video here in just a second. I want to let you know if you want to get a hold of us during the week or any time, just go to StreamingChurch.tv and contact us. We'd be happy to help you with any innovation or technology questions when it comes to broadcasting over the internet. Mike here would be available to help you with any questions. He's doing it at alivechurch.com. There's links down below here that I failed to mention. Click on the Alive Church link. Click on the Alive flowchart there that tells you a little bit about how they actually broadcast their stuff. And you can take a look at that as well. So we're out of time. I'm Phil Thompson. Steve Lacey is behind the camera today. Again, thank you, Steve, for your production. Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure.
You bet.
And thank you, folks, for viewing us. And again, God bless. Have a great week. We'll catch you next time.